Have you ever looked at two companies and wondered, why is one always going for the throat while the other just kind of plays it safe? Well, it's not random. Today, we're going to decode the secret language of business warfare. It's a high-stakes game, and every single move is calculated. I mean, just think about the biggest business rivalries out there. Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, right? For decades, these two have been locked in this just endless battle for our taste buds. You see it everywhere, from the grocery store to the Super Bowl ads. Their fight is absolutely legendary. But here's the thing, none of it is random. Nope, it's all part of a strategic playbook. You see, it doesn't matter if a company is this huge reigning king or some ambitious upstart trying to make a name for itself. Where they stand in the market, that dictates every single move they make. It really is like a giant game of chess, and every company has a specific role to play. All right, so how does this actually work? We're going to map out the battlefield. Then we'll dive into the four key players. You've got the leader, the challenger, the follower, and the nicher. And by the end, we'll talk about how you choose your own path to victory. Okay, so first things first. Every single market is a battlefield. And rule number one of any battle is to know your position, right? Your company isn't just a company. It's a character in this big, ongoing drama, and it has a very specific part to play. So first up, you've got the market leader. This is the king of the hill, the big kahuna with the largest market share. The perfect example? Coca-Cola. Their number one goal is super simple: stay on top. That means defending their turf, sure, but also trying to grow the entire market, because they know if the pie gets bigger, they're going to get the biggest slice. Then you have the market challenger. This is your ambitious number two, the one who's always looking for a fight. Yep, we're talking about Pepsi. They are not happy with second place. Their whole strategy is built around one single thing: attack the leader and snatch that crown. All right, next up is the market follower. Now, these guys are the smart apprentices. They watch what the leader does, see what's working, and basically say, hey, that looks good. Instead of getting into a super expensive fight they can't win, they just copy the leader's successful moves. Maybe they add a little twist, but they end up saving a fortune in the process. Pretty smart, right? And finally, there's the market nicher. These are the true specialists. They look at the big, bloody battle between the leaders and challengers and say, no, thank you. They avoid that fight entirely. Instead, they find a small, super profitable corner of the market, maybe a specific type of customer or a really unique need, and they just own it. They dominate it completely. Okay, so let's dig into the market leader. How do you stay on top once you're there? Well, for them, it's all about defense. Think about it. When you're sitting on the throne, literally everyone wants a piece of you, so your entire strategy revolves around one thing: building a fortress so strong that nobody can break in. And a leader's defensive playbook has some classic moves. You've got position defense. That's like making your main castle walls thicker and taller. Then there's flank defense, guarding those weaker side towers. And my favorite, preemptive defense, which is basically digging a giant moat just to make sure no one even thinks about attacking. So, position defense. This one's all about focus. A leader takes its biggest, most successful brands, their crown jewels, and just pours resources into them. The whole point is to make a direct head-on attack so incredibly difficult and expensive that any challenger would just look at it and say, yeah, no way, not worth it. But, a smart attacker isn't going to charge straight at your strongest wall. They're going to look for the weak spots, the flanks. And that's where flank defense comes in. It's all about anticipating that move. The leader will launch new products to plug any gaps in their lineup before a competitor can even see the opening. It's like patching up your armor before the fight even starts. You know that saying, the best defense is a good offense? Well, that's preemptive defense in a nutshell. It means you strike first, you innovate so fast, and build a brand that's so powerful that anyone thinking about competing just looks at the situation and goes, nope, there's just no way we can do that. You're basically winning the war before it even begins. Okay, but what if you're not the one in the castle? What if you're the one outside trying to storm the walls? Well, that brings us to the market challenger. Their entire existence is defined by one word: attack. They don't have a choice. They have to be aggressive. And a challenger has a whole arsenal of attack plans. They can go for a direct head-on frontal attack. They can hit the leader's weak spots with a flank attack. They can try to surround them with an encirclement attack.
They can sidestep the fight entirely with a bypass, or just hit him with a bunch of small, annoying jabs in a guerrilla attack.
This frontal attack, it's exactly what it sounds like. A direct, head-to-head assault. You're matching your competitor on everything, product for product, price for price, ad for ad. Now, this is super expensive, and it usually turns into a brutal battle of who can last the longest. But if it works, man, you hit the leader right where it hurts.
Now, maybe the most brilliant strategy of all is the bypass attack. With this, you don't even bother fighting the leader on their turf. You just change the entire game. The absolute best example is Apple's iPod. Apple didn't try to make a slightly better Sony Walkman. No way. They created a whole new way to listen to music, and in doing so, they basically made the Walkman obsolete overnight.
And then you've got the guerrilla attack. Think of these as small, unexpected, and kind of unconventional jabs. The whole point is to harass the leader, to get under their skin and demoralize them. Pepsi's campaign during that World Cup? Oh, that was a masterclass. It was so clever, so cheeky, and it totally bugged Coke, all without having to pay for an expensive official sponsorship. But let's be real. Not everyone wants to be in a constant state of war. It's exhausting. And that's where our last two players come in, the follower and the nicher. Their whole deal is that they succeed by avoiding a direct fight.
Yeah, market followers play a really smart, low-risk game. They just sit back and let the leader spend all the money and effort on R&D and convincing customers. So you have a few types. The cloner basically makes a look-alike, but that can get you into legal trouble. The imitator copies the main product but sells it way cheaper, though people might think it's low quality. And then there's the adapter. This is the most ambitious one. They take the leader's idea and actually make it better. And that strategy can sometimes turn a follower into a challenger down the road.
The market nicher has a philosophy that's just so simple and powerful. Why would you fight tooth and nail to be a tiny little fish in a massive ocean when you could just find your own little pond and be the biggest fish in it? It is all about specialization. And the cool thing is, you can find a niche pretty much anywhere. You could focus on a super specific customer, like say a brand that only makes gear for professional ice climbers. You could specialize in a price point, either the most ridiculously luxurious watch imaginable or the absolute cheapest one that still works. Or you could just serve one tiny town or offer a weird service that nobody else does. The goal is always the same: become absolutely essential to a small but super loyal group of people. So there you have it. As we've seen, a company's strategy isn't pulled out of thin air. It flows directly from its position in the market. It really all boils down to one of four mindsets, right? You either defend your turf like a leader, you attack the throne like a challenger, you copy the winner like a follower, or you create a whole new game for yourself like a nicher. And of course, every single one of these paths has its own unique risks and its own rewards. And that kind of leaves us with one big final question. In the world we live in today, where everything changes overnight, which of these positions is actually the strongest? Is it better to be the massive, resource-rich leader who can survive pretty much anything but moves at a snail's pace? Or is it better to be that small, nimble nicher who can turn on a dime but might get crushed by one big shock to the system? You know, in the constantly shifting battleground of business, there really is no easy answer.